What's happening, people? I'm here with the main man.
It's the champ.
Make sure you tune into Pep Talk UK, where it talks boxing and
big up.
Thank you, AJ.
Pep Talk UK.
It's time!
Everyone talk good game, but it don't really faze me. The man that ain't mad like Max, the way that I'm murky like Ace B. And them guy walk the slide on the back, balling like a baby.
Oi, oi! Welcome to the Pep Talk UK Sports Podcast. The podcast that talks the major boxing and football news from around the globe. Real points of view from a real panel. Hashtag Real Talk on Pep Talk. Please subscribe to Pep Talk UK on iTunes and YouTube. Don't forget to like, share and comment. I'm your host, Frankie B, and I'm joined by a sick panel. Firstly, I'd like to welcome from the capital city of France, Paris, Pascal. How are ya?
Et voilà, Pascal de retour. Frankie B, bonsoir, how are you?
I'm feeling good, mate. 3 FA Cups in 4 years. I can't complain.
Oui. And also learned today that Wenger is to stay another 2 years.
Mate, we'll talk about that later. Yeah, but you know, it was a nice day at Wembley. Arsenal did the business. We played well, and Wembley was painted red.
Yes, of course, very good day for every Arsenal fan, and everybody that doesn't like Chelsea. Certainly, some of us in Paris don't like Chelsea. So yes, very happy for Arsenal.
A bit of sore losers they were. They were singing "Champions of Europe." You'll never sing that.
They're also champions of the metro in Paris. Also, you know, some of them are inspectors. They like to kick people off the metro. But we will not talk about that either, you know.
All right, we've got a packed pod ahead of us. You want to shout out your social media, Pascal?
Yes, of course. Yes, Frankie B. Also, I want to bring to your attention to the listeners in the UK that we have a world star in our French heavyweight boxer, Tony Yoka, fighting on Friday at the Palais des Sports in Paris. So, those of you coming to Paris, please, let's have a look and let's support the French superstar Tony Yoka, who I believe will one day beat your very own AJ. But let's have this conversation one day in a podcast. So this Friday, Palais des Sports, Tony Yoka. And my Twitter is Pascal_Desad. And for Instagram is also the same, Pascal_Desad. Follow me. Merci.
Yeah. Now I'd like to welcome a new inductee to the Pep Talk boys. He now rolling with us. It's Baz K. How you doing, bro?
Yeah, I'm good, Frankie B. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, so Baz, welcome to the Pep Talk boys. I see you enjoyed a good night of boxing at Bramall Lane last weekend.
Yeah, I'm not sure enjoyed is probably the right word at the moment, but I was definitely there in plenty of volume, and it was a spectacular event. Really pleased to be part of it. Disappointed with the end result, obviously, but yeah, a brilliant show and a brilliant fight week build up to be part of, which hopefully I'll be able to give you gentlemen a bit of an insight to this evening on the podcast.
Yeah, we can't wait for some of that northern feedback, mate. Now, you want to shout out your social media?
Yeah, sure. You can hit me on Instagram at Candiara84. That's Kandiara84. Or on Twitter, Baz_Candiara. Or if it's easier, just go onto Special Cal Brook's page and see the post when I sent over some chocolate brownies to Sam Watson and his team this weekend.
That's right. I remember the chocolate brownies at that table, mate.
Yeah.
Classic.
I think they do as well.
Right. Now I'd like to welcome a US boxing correspondent for Pep Talk UK from the Boxing News magazine UK. It's Ken Buhari. How you doing, Geese?
I'm doing good, man. I don't know what Baz K's talking about. That was I was very happy after Saturday night.
You see, we've got to balance out the crews now. Now we've got an American in the show. Hey, Ken, you Americans are winning at the moment. First it's Javonta, and now it's like Errol Spence. You guys, like, you're winning at the moment.
Yeah, definitely a resurgence in American boxing. I think we're feeling it over here, but you know what? I gotta say this, in spite of us, all the winning that we're doing, and maybe even Mayweather coming back, you guys have Anthony Joshua, so you've got nothing to complain about, really.
Yeah. So at the moment, you could really say in America, it is strap season.
Oh, it is. It is. Man down.
Man down. Man down. Brilliant. Ken, I'm going to keep it moving. You want to shout out your social media?
Absolutely. You can check me out at K Buhari on Twitter. That's KBOUHAIRIE on Twitter. And for my latest work, boxingnewsonline.net, or pick up the magazine.
Haha, stars and stripes, my friend. Right, finally, I'd like to welcome a newcomer to the show, a man that has his own YouTube boxing channel. It's BENJI from BENJI's Boxing. How you doing, fella?
Hello all, absolute pleasure to be here with you. Thank you very much for having me on your show.
Yeah, so you want to tell us a little bit about your YouTube channel? I know it's doing some good numbers out there.
Well, I'm still pretty small, but it's slow and steady, and slow and steady wins the race. But it's basically at the moment just me reviewing fights, doing predictions, doing breakdowns of things. I've started going to some weigh-in events and things like that, and I'm hoping, with a little bit of luck, we'll get some interviews with some boxers on there soon. That's the aim before the year's out, and we just keep progressing,
B-Town all the way. Now, BENJI, you want to shout out your social media?
Yeah, on Twitter, I'm at BENJI Boxing, and on YouTube, I am BENJI's Boxing channel. Pretty easy to find.
BENJI's Boxing, support that. Ladies and gents, for the fight fans locked in, for the football fans locked in, now it's time for some real talk on Pep Talk. Let's go! So we start with the boxing, and last weekend Errol Spence was crowned the new IBF World Welterweight Champion after defeating Brook by TKO in the 11th round. Now, Pascal, Errol Spence is now amongst the world elite. He can now embrace his Jamaican roots and sing some good old Butcher Banton. Walk like a champion, talk like a champion. Your thoughts on the fight? The new IBF champion.
Frankie B, as you know, for those of you who follow the show, I'm very much a Brook fan, and I always support Brook, and I always believed in his ability, but for me, a lot of things happened during that fight that concerned me. Certainly when you reflect on the fight with Triple G, should he have really taken that fight? Now in retrospect, of course, maybe not. But let's talk about the performance. I felt that Brook fought a good fight. The first 5 rounds I felt were very good. Fighting a southpaw boxer is always open. Very close. Sometimes the feet were a bit entangled, but I felt that Brook controlled the fight quite well, he was throwing some very good counter punches. The power was not what I expected it to be. I've seen Brook, punch with much more purpose. But, towards the latter rounds, Errol Spence came into his own, he was the fresher fighter, he was the more hungrier fighter. And unfortunately caught Brook some very, very good shots, very precise, very accurate. And unfortunately, the worst happened for Brook. He took a knee, and his eye socket also became damaged. And and that certainly was a turning point in the fight for me, because I think psychologically a lot of demons were haunting Brook during that moment.
Yep, it's kind of like Groundhog Day. from the fight with Triple G. It's happening again.
Yes, of course. It's a bit concerning because it makes you then wonder, was he managed properly? Was he, should he have taken that fight? Because, for me, the fight against Errol Spence was certainly much more valuable for Kell Brook, because if had Kell Brook beaten Errol Spence, then we can talk about a unification fight against Thurman, and that fight would have been would have been a mammoth fight, It's the kind of fight that even if Thurman was brave enough, may even have considered come to the UK, and it could be a major event, even here in the UK. Because a lot of people wanted to see how Kell Brook was going to react from the Triple G defeat, but also whether he was the real deal that could deal with Thurman. And with Mayweather out of the picture for now, there's certainly, the eyes on who is going to be dominating the welterweight division. And Kell Brook, for me, could have made a lot more money, with the fight against Thurman. And, of course, maybe later on, another super fight against Amir Khan. Now it doesn't look like it's going to be the case for him.
But that Amir Khan fight, surely that's the most logical fight for the both of them.
Well, for me, Khan can take the fight, and certainly Khan can call the shots. 70-30, I think the last time was the argument, saying that the fight wasn't equal. But look, it's now
that's a disrespect to the champion. But
the balance of power has now tilted towards Amir Khan. I think Amir Khan can now decide whether to fight Kell Brook or not. Because, he's no longer the cash cow, I believe, now Amir Khan can decide to wait as to what's going to happen between Errol Spence and Keith Thurman, and maybe challenge the winner of that super fight, and unfortunately I think Kell Brook has a lot of thinking to do. His promotion team has a lot of thinking to do, because those injuries are not, are very serious, Frankie B.
Life injuries, your sight.
Of course.
And really serious.
The psychological damage is far, far worse than the physical damage. And I think that Kell Brook is a bit concerned about, sustaining more injuries. And he's still a very young man, But I believe he only has 2 fights left, in his career. I think after 2 fights, he'll be finished with him.
Now, Bas K, was it a case of the man with the greatest stamina coming out on top in the end?
I think ultimately Pascal hit some very, very salient points there. I shared the vision that the feet tangling was a big issue. I mean, it looks like a remote and tiny issue, but the first 5 rounds for me, even the first 6 rounds, I had Cal squeezing it. They were very close to score rounds, and that's always a good thing in boxing, because it almost helps you think that Cal's probably not sustaining too much trouble and he's not getting too fatigued.
But those little body punches where they were eventually taking its toll.
Absolutely. And the issue I had with the fight was every time Cal was clinching him and doing the right things by tying him up, overpowering him with his physical prowess, the problem was he wasn't working on the inside. And Errol kept finding the body. Every opportunity to tie up the busier fighter was Errol Spence. And when the feet were tangling, if you watch the fight back, what you'll see is that Kell Brook's an upright fighter. One of the most beautiful counter punchers with the best lateral movement in the welterweight division. So he presents an awkward style, and that's probably why afterwards when Errol Spence had his interview, he referred to the fact that he found him not savage power, but he found him very awkward and a very difficult opponent. So for me, the stamina was absolutely an issue, but I also think that Kell Brook really needs to have a logical think about why he took the Golovkin fight. I absolutely echo the sentiments from Pascal there. It hit the nail on the head for me. I think the way I summarised the whole fight was Triple G, in hindsight, may have earned him a big payday, but has it come at a much bigger price? And that's really an article we could release really and get 1 million views on. Because I was fortunate enough or unfortunate enough to spend a bit of time with Derek James, the trainer of Errol Spence.
Yes.
And first I was a little bit upset, and Kenny might like listening to this, because I was thinking, he's come over very brash, very loud, and when he's in the press conferences, he's winning the kidology, and that's all part of boxing. They have to sell their fight. I totally respect that. When I spoke to the man, and this is no word of a lie, at 4:15, the night of the fight, 4:15 p.m, he's in the hotel lobby breaking down the fight for me for 20 minutes.
Wow.
He's talking to me about how he's never watched Kell Brook up until the fact Errol Spence had to fight him.
Wow.
And I said, how much do you respect Errol Spence's power? His exact words were, Errol Spence's power is unreal. He beats up my light heavies, 200-pound geezers, he's beating them up. I said, okay, any household names we'll be familiar with? He said, well, Charlo gets it off Errol Spence on the regular.
Wow.
There's no reason
and
for a man to
Charlo
discredit.
can bang.
Charlo can bang. You've seen Charlo with 2 of the knockouts of the year against Hatley and the chap before him, who he finished off with a beautiful counter uppercut. The way he set that up was the sweet science, and I think that's where we fall shy of American boxers. They are just sweeter, more beautiful timers and precision in terms of the sweet science. I think they've got it a little bit slicker.
With better footwork, because we tend to just put our heads down and just go and try and take the guy's heads off, and that's it.
Absolutely. And what he said to me was, he said, I think that Cal Brook's only got 2 punches in his repertoire. One is obviously his fantastic 1-2 jab, and the other is his right uppercut. And I asked him, okay, so putting bias aside, how do you call this fight? And he said, let me put it to you like this, Baz. Cal Brook cannot defend against Errol Spence, whereas Errol Spence has got a good tidy defence. We have a plan to defend against his attack. And he stood there and he imitated Cal Brook's fighting posture, very upright, punching downwards, and then he imitated Errol Spence's, chopping down like trees, as he put it. And he said to me, ultimately, I can't imagine what round it's going to be in, but Errol will stop Cal Brook, because if you beat the body enough, the head will go. And it's just unfortunate that, that very prediction and the very, 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 clearly accurate work and attention to detail they paid, although they said they haven't watched enough of Cal Brook, they had a master plan. Finally, to answer your question, when I look back at the round and I was watching Dominic Ingle in the 6th and 7th round, it was just before Cal had sustained an eye injury. What did he keep saying? He kept saying, sort your head out, Cal. Get your head straight.
Yeah.
He's getting fatigued. And Errol Spence was, mouth open, cut lip, on the back foot. But there's a couple of instances where even after the feet were tangling, Cal Brook's tie from his gloves came apart. It brought Errol Spence, the young, hungrier, fitter athlete who's more used to staying at 147, valuable 30 seconds. And once he regrouped and he started going to the body, I think ultimately the disparity in weight, going up and facing somebody like Golovkin, takes a lot out of you, then boiling down to 147. And let's not forget, when Cal's in between fights, he walks around at a much heavier weight as well. So the fatigue kicked in, but I don't think Spence was absolutely spectacular. I've seen him fight better, but I do think Cal Brook was far from his special best as well.
And he had the demons of Golovkin.
Absolutely, and I would like to think that if he had got through the 12th round, we may have even witnessed a trilogy, which meant we wouldn't even have to talk about the likes of Amir Khan, who doesn't really interest me for Cal Brook going forward.
Yeah. Well, Ken, let's talk a bit about Errol Spence. What are some of the good things you thought he did well in the fight?
Well, first, I think it's actually great to listen to you guys and offer a different perspective from overseas and sort of how you see the fight. I think it's just wonderful. I agree with a lot of what Baskay said, but I do, want to point out a couple things. One thing is that, going into this fight, I wasn't convinced that Errol Spence could beat Cal Brook. I've seen him ringside a bunch of times. I'm aware of the great sparring stories. He stopped Adrian Broner in sparring, made him cry. Obviously, he obviously gave Floyd a black eye. So I mean, he's a legend as far as sparring, and he's pretty well known in the from the amateur circles. And I've seen him as professional. I saw him get hurt. Obviously, you guys are aware, get hurt in the 7th round against Emmanuel Larte. Coming up, I think that was his 8th or 9th fight. I don't remember, but that always stuck with me. But he really impressed me in this fight. I thought he did a lot of subtle things. I think what Baskay is saying that Derek James said, if you watch the fight, you can clearly see it. In the beginning of the fight, Brook was able to counter his jab. He was countering Spence's right jab with his left jab. By round 2, Spence had taken that away from him. And there's a turning point, if you watch the fight carefully, in round 4, with about 30 seconds left, Errol Spence lands a beautiful left uppercut to the body. And, and Brook took a couple steps back and he sort of complained to the ref that it might have been low, but, I think right then and there the fight started to turn. And those little body punches that he does, he's very, very strong on the inside, and he knows. He's like a veteran on the inside. He knows how to break free and work the body. I actually thought that the glove breaks benefited Brook. I thought they were sort of doing it on purpose, because the second time it happened, he came out of the corner with his glove unwrapped. It's not as if it was unwrapped. It was unwrapped somewhere in the middle of the round. He came out of the corner with it unwrapped, and so I sort of suspected that they were trying to buy him time, because he was heaving pretty heavy in the corner. And Spence's game is body shots and stamina. We hadn't seen him go late, but we haven't seen anyone, being able to stand up to that. So I think it was an excellent performance, because I rate Kell Brook very highly. I don't know how much the Golovkin fight affected him. I suspected it may have played a part, but I think that was offset by the fact that it was also the longest layoff of Spence's career. Up until that fight, he had fought 6 times in the past 18 months prior to that. So he had been very active prior to the layoff in between. So I think that sort of offsets the two. And I think Errol Spence will be very, very difficult to beat for any welterweight.
So what about the Americans? What are the Americans saying overall about Kell Brook taking a knee?
Well, there are two schools of thought. One is that he quit, which I think is a little unfair, because for starters, I'd like to see you go in there and take 11 rounds of beating from...
it ain't easy. And his life after boxing as well.
Right, exactly. And people have to think about that. People are thinking, well, I paid X amount of dollars, therefore put your life on the line and lose it if you have
savage,
to.
Man.
That's not the way life works. He fought valiantly, and he gave a brave effort. And let's be honest, well, if he didn't stay on his knee, he was going to go down anyway. So what did we really lose? We knew what was going to happen. We saw what was happening, and if he feels that something was wrong with his eye, he has every right to walk away. The bottom line is he didn't rob us of our money. We got our money's worth with the fight. So I don't agree with that school of thought. And I think the other school of thought was, look, he gave a game effort, and sometimes it wasn't enough. Miguel Cotto got to his knees against Antonio Margarito, and he was getting hit by bricks. So and they still called him a quitter after that. Roberto Duran and so forth, and all those guys are great fighters. So we take nothing away from Kell Brook. Great performance, great effort. I think he should come back at 154. I don't know if he'll be the same after these 2 fights back to back, but I'd like to see him again.
Yes, surely indeed. Kell Brook, well, we wish you a speedy recovery. Now, Benji. Now, how did you assess the fight? I mean, what do you think Kell Brook did right? What do you think he could have done better? And what do you think Errol Spence did to get the W?
Wow, I mean, this was a great fight, not just because of what happened in the ring, but because of all the talking points that have all, Kenneth and Baz and Pascal, what's been discussed so far. You could debate so many issues of this fight, before it and after it. I told a lot of people that Errol Spence was the real deal before this, and it was going to be a ridiculously hard fight for Kell Brook. I had a couple of friends and family, my brother came over, who don't follow boxing very much, and they said, Ben, is this just going to be another easy fight for Kell Brook? And I said, no, this guy Spence is could be something really special, and we're going to find that out tonight. So various questions got answered. I thought that Kell Brook started very well. In the battle of the jabs, he seemed to feint well, get Spence's jab to come out, and then he countered with his own jab very well. And so we had this chess match in the first 2-3 rounds. And one of the other things that made this fight so great is it had a bit of everything. We started off, as I say, with the chess match, and then it just warmed up. By round 6, round 7, 2 of them are pretty much going to war with each other, and it turned into a battle of attrition. And surprisingly, it was at this point that I thought that Spence was taking over. I thought that Spence would have more success with it being a chess match, and being more of a brawl would work in Kell Brook's favour. Kell Brook had a very good round 6 and looked like he might be getting the upper hand in the fight, but what happened after then, obviously in round 7, Spence had a very good round, and Kell Brook seemed to tire, and that was the big turning point for me. As Kell Brook's energy levels and pace and slowed down, footwork, went flat. And then for some reason, I don't know how he did it, whether it was part of the game plan, but Errol Spence, he just got his motor running.
Yeah, I think that was part of the game plan. Yeah, I think it was.
It was impressive to see the speed, the stamina and fitness of this young man, and the confidence in him as well. I mean, going to the final stoppage, one of the points that I sort of want to put to everyone is to say that Kell Brook quit and to brand him a quitter. Does that not take away from Errol Spence here? Because the reason why Kell Brook quit, for want of a better word, or stopped the fight, was because of the damage that Errol Spence had inflicted on him. Errol Spence had fractured his eye socket.
Got to remember, Kell Brook's been in the same scenario before with the eye injury. And I honestly think that played in his mind to take that knee. Honestly.
Oh, absolutely. But what I'm saying, even if the Golovkin fight, because it was the other eye to the Golovkin eye, you see, it's still Errol Spence that landed the shots and caused that damage that forced Kell Brook to not be able to continue in the fight. So I think by people calling Kell Brook a quitter, that doesn't sit well for me, because I don't think he is a quitter. I mean, look at round 10, for example. He could have, if he was a quitter, he'd have given up then instead of fighting back the way he did. But I feel that it actually takes away from Errol Spence to call Kell Brook a quitter, because it was Errol Spence, after all, that caused the damage. It wasn't Kell Brook's first choice to get out of the ring. He was forced to, if that makes sense.
It was more like a tap out rather than a quitting, I would say.
Well, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because, I don't like to compare boxing and UFC, but in UFC, tap out is common. And the fighter that causes the tap out, the fighter that gets his opponent in the submission, they get praised for causing their opponent to submit, rather than the focus being on calling the submitted fighter a quitter.
Very good point.
Very good point.
Can I ask a question, gentlemen? I'll ask a question if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Which one of us watched Lomachenko versus Walters?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Now Walters quit. Walters quit. Let's be real.
So, that's an example of a guy who's at the absolute top of his game with a rich amateur career. He's in his 30s, he's in his prime, and he methodically destroyed another fighter in Walters who's no joke. Now, Kell Brook versus Errol Spence, there's not that much of a disparity between the two either.
But there was no injury in the Walters fight.
There was no injury. No. I'm making the same point. I'm saying we as a universal boxing family all agreed that Walters quit on his stool because he got broken down. And I'm with Benji here. I think the fact that we're so caught up, not us as a podcast, but I mean as a nation, we're all caught up on the fact that did Kell Brook give a knee? Did he quit? It is a disservice to Errol Spence, who very methodically broke him down. His coach told me what he was going to do. Errol Spence told the world what he was going to do. And I think when a man backs his words up with actions, we've got to applaud that more than discredit Kell Brook, who has absolutely got the heart of a lion. Any man who takes 5 or 6 rounds versus Golovkin and taking 40 unanswered punches by the biggest hitter in the world and doesn't take a knee, then goes in with Errol Spence and ignores his promoter, ignores probably every sound bit of advice around him to move up in weight, does not have a tune-up or test the eye out, goes 11 rounds of an absolute beating after boiling down to 147. One thing I ask you to consider, guys, before he took his knee, he was looking around at Dominic Ingle. He could have waved the towel, but his partner was on the ring apron and she was shouting. Now, I don't know, I've never been in a boxing ring in championship rounds, believe it or not, despite my finely tuned torso. But I think in that scenario, when everything, your chips are down, you're looking around for a familiar face and a familiar voice. And if someone's telling you, Cal, you need to think of your vision. Those demons absolutely must have been there, Frankie. I think there was something in him that told him, okay, this is too much. And whilst it might have been the other eye, I do think you've got to put your health first. He gave us great value for money, like our friend Kenneth said. So,
Baz?
Yeah.
Baz, you know what I'm thinking now? I'm thinking demons, I'm thinking Golovkin, and I actually feel sorry now for Canelo.
Maybe. That's a difficult one to call as well for me.
I'm going to move forward now. Ken, staying with Errol Spence here. now we look to the future, all right? Where do you see him going now? Is he going to fight Keith Thurman, or is he going to go ahead and try his luck against Pacquiao? What do you see him doing next?
I love that they're throwing Pacquiao's name around. I don't see Bob Arum putting Manny Pacquiao in against any of those guys unless he's ready to sacrifice him. I think those guys are a little too young and hungry for Pacquiao at this stage. But more importantly, it doesn't make business sense for Bob Arum to do that, to share a promotion. He didn't like it when he had to do with Mayweather Pacquiao, but it was such a big fight that it was over his head, and he didn't have as much leverage as he once did as far as that fight. He has all the leverage here because Pacquiao is still the bigger name. So I don't see that happening anytime soon. Obviously Spence will fight anyone. He went over to the UK to fight Brook, and I'm sure he would love Keith Thurman, but Keith Thurman is probably not fighting again this year. He's got that elbow surgery, he's got the rehab. Sean Porter is probably licking his chops, wanting to get at Spence. I'm not convinced that fight happens this year either. So unfortunately for Spence, he's sort of in a tough situation. I could see him maybe just defending his title, staying busy or something like that in between before the big fights start happening. Mm-hmm. I don't see a big fight right away for him.
Yeah, do you think he needs to pick up a bit more experience and basically honour his mandatories?
I don't think he needs to pick up more experience. I think he showed against an experienced, capable champion in Cal Brook that
he's ready, yeah?
That he's more than ready. I think him and Thurman is a fantastic fight. But nothing is a given against those guys. Not even against Danny Garcia, not even against Sean Porter. All those guys are tough, and all those guys can beat one another on any given night. Anything can happen. So, let's just make it happen. Let's see what happens. I don't think we see that big fight this year, but maybe next spring we're looking at a big fight.
Benji, over to you. Of the current crop of world champions at welterweight, who would you say stands out as the best welterweight in your opinion?
In my opinion, Keith Thurman. I absolutely love the way this guy boxes, because he can box, he can fight. He's a very intelligent guy. He comes across in interviews as being very intelligent, and that transfers into the ring. Mm-hmm. And he always seems to get the tactics right. He knows when to box, he knows when to fight. So, in my opinion, he's top of the division. I slightly disagree with Kenneth in that I think if Spence was to fight Thurman next, I would actually be backing Thurman probably a little bit more. But then again, I think as well Kenneth made some really good points, and maybe we are seeing Spence come into his peak, and now is the time to do it, sooner rather than later. Pacquiao is kind of, I don't know how I see Pacquiao these days, because he's just sort of on a bit of a farewell tour now, and I can't see him actually getting in with the likes of Thurman or Garcia or Spence or anyone like that. So it might be a bit harsh, but I actually see Manny Pacquiao as a bit of an irrelevance. Mm-hmm. And I feel that way a little bit about, it pains me to say it, but I feel that way a little bit about Amir Khan as well. I don't see where Khan really fits in with the current crop. But I think after talking to you guys on this podcast, I think for me now, I'd love to see Adrian Broner and Errol Spence.
Spence.
See what if the old crying situation comes up.
Benji, you're a sadist. I had no idea. You want to see Broner die or something?
He wants to see more tears, yeah. More tears,
yeah. Because I think the press conference could be quite interesting. That if Spence says, "I made you cry in sparring," that could be fun.
Kenneth, is there talk of Broner Garcia getting over the line now?
Yeah, serious talk about it, and they're actually in negotiation right now. But I don't know if you saw Adrian Broner. Have you seen him on social media this week? But he's somewhere between light heavyweight and cruiserweight right now. Yeah. So
fat burger.
And that's no exaggeration, man. I mean, he looks terrible. So between that and the jail stint, I find it very hard to believe that he'll get down to 140 for this fight. He couldn't even get down to 140 for his last fight.
Yeah, exactly.
His last fight was supposed to be at 140. Yep, that's right, against Adrian Granados. He was supposed to be at 140. They moved up to 142. And then 3 weeks before the fight, they moved up to 147. I can see him trying to do the same thing against a smaller guy, Mikey Garcia. And so I don't know if that fight happens, but they are negotiating.
Although he will take on anyone in a pie eating contest at the moment.
He's pound for pound, number one.
And Kenneth, just slightly digressing, how have the Americans taken to Chavez Jr. Drowning his sorrows with a few women after the fight against Canelo?
I get it, I respect it, but I don't know. It sounds like he got caught out there and maybe made up a story for his lady, talking about I got robbed by the 5 women I was with, but I didn't sleep with any of them. Sure, I want to see the police report.
All right, we're going to move on now. Pascal.
Wait.
George Groves finally winning a world title. As Aaliyah says, if you first you don't succeed, try again, and again. Now,
yes.
Congratulations to George Groves.
George St. Groves, yes, of course. I mean, look, we liked George Groves because he's been in some very exciting fights, Of course, the James DeGale Groves fight was a very good fight. First professional fight. I felt that was a very exciting fight. But also the Carl Froch, the first fight was, I was on the edge of my seat.
And he almost won it. He was within a whisker of winning.
It was very close. It was very, very, very close. And Frankie, some referees would have stopped the fight, but because it was Carl Froch and the promotional company that backs him, perhaps there was a bit more, there was a bit more concern about stopping the fight early, but Froch managed to come back and win the fight. And the second fight, there was no argument there. It was probably one of the most devastating knockouts I've seen in a very long time. Yeah. But, let's talk about the fight against Chudinov. Chudinov himself, a very, very powerful fighter, very interesting, come forward boxer with not very, the head movement not particularly great. But, he certainly would, kind of boxer that can demoralize you, because he comes at all the time.
And he started well as well. He started quite well.
Well, I felt that the first 3 rounds, that he came in very strong and he was very determined. Perhaps it's because, he had a bit of a layoff also, so he hadn't been in the ring for a very long time. I recall that the last fight I saw him was against another Brit, Frank Buglioni, where he won the fight, and Frank was unable to win his attempt at the WBA belt. But, George St. Groves did really well. I felt that towards the 4th and 5th round, his jab was connecting really well, and his combination was coming up very well also. And Chudinov was slowly broken down by the accuracy of George St. Groves. But, St. Groves, he reminds me of a drunken master when he fights, because I'm never quite sure. I'm never quite sure if he's there. If you look at the fight, his legs are all over the place. It's
a drunken master, yeah?
Yeah, next time you watch him fight, have a look at his stance, have a look at the way he throws his shots. He looks as if he's been drinking some vodka.
Yeah. Well, after that punch from Carl Froch, come on,
but maybe he's still a bit punch drunk, but he surprises me. He surprises me a lot. But look, I was very pleased for him, because he's a man that tells, for me, the victory for Groves is not just a victory for himself, but for other boxers out there that, do not give up on your dreams, keep going. Keep trying, because Groves is certainly the kind of boxer that has done that. And also, if you remember the last fight he had, unfortunately his opponent was hospitalized.
Yeah. And Pascal, that's what I said about my GCSEs, mate. Keep trying.
Oh, you got to keep trying until you get the result. But George Groves has had a very difficult career. Against Badu Jack, he was very close and he lost that fight. Mm-hmm. And we now have him as our new world champion. And I think it's time for Groves to enjoy the world championship. I do not believe he needs to chase anybody. I think that maybe it's for him to start defending the belt a few times, and then maybe...
And you know what we want, though? You know what we want, don't we? We want Groves versus DeGale. That's what we wanted. We want it.
Yeah. Frankie B, Groves beats DeGale again for me,
Oh, you reckon?
Well, it's, you know, some boxers have just got your number. It's a bit like when Arsenal played Bolton Wanderers. Every time Arsenal played Bolton Wanderers, they would lose to Bolton. And I think that Groves is the Sam Allardyce of James DeGale, you know. He's just found a way to beat him. You know, so I mean, look, I would watch the fight because it'll be entertaining. The press conference certainly will be very good, but I don't believe that James DeGale has evolved as, you know, in the way that George Groves has in his boxing, you know. And I give George Groves the edge on that fight, you know. But that's just my opinion.
Baz, who are you favouring if there's a Groves versus DeGale?
Well, this is interesting. I'm really interested to listen to Pascal's view there, and it was a great analogy, Bolton Wanderers and Arsenal. Didn't expect that one, but very, very nice. I don't think anyone would actually welcome being called anybody Sam Allardyce, mind you, but
Sam Allardyce.
If I'm honest with you, I actually think James DeGale has reinvented himself and come back tenfold a better boxer than the fight that he was when he fought Groves.
Yep.
I love George Groves, and we gave him an absolutely rapturous, you know, entrance, and he gives it back. His entrance was world class, and he comes in, he looks psyched up. I can see the absolute reference to Drunken Master. He looks like a character of Tekken.
Yeah. But you know, that's the Adam Booth style, though. You know,
that's it. That's the Adam Booth style, and it's like kidology as well. And I think when you look at George Groves and when he got in there, I mean, my wife actually texted me because when they super slow motion his replay, I was behind George Groves, like throwing every punch with him, and I watched it back and forth. It's a bit cringy, so I don't want to advertise it, but that just shows you the fan base.
Insta your story, yeah?
Yeah, he's a bit of a purist, and for me, I think if he fights DeGale again, I think it will be just as close as the first time round, but it all depends on what sort of mental warfare he can win, and George Groves' performance for me was a massive psychological lift, and there's some parallels you can draw with the Cal Brook fight actually, because we talked about exercising demons. When he actually won his fight, he paid a fantastic tribute to his previous opponent Gutneck, who I believe is still in not a very good condition actually.
Yeah.
And it puts a lot into perspective, like Kenneth said about the school of thought about taking a knee for your life. It's basically regarding the mindset of boxers. You know, you can be left psychologically scarred from a loss, or potentially even from really hurting one of your opponents. And Chris Eubank Sr. from his later years reminds me a lot of this. And I personally just hope that this victory and dedication is going to allow George Groves now to put those, you know, those mental demons to a side, and he can really thrive and have a successful career and unify, if not make some brilliant defences of his well-deserved world title. I think we always knew the potential was there. It would just be interesting to see physically what a different fighter he is now under the stewardship of Shane McGuigan. Now, we bumped into Shane McGuigan on the Thursday night before the weigh-ins, and his confidence, he was oozing with confidence about George Groves. And Chudinov, the way he was coming forward, he was like a man possessed. I mean, George Groves looks at the referee for a split second like, are you going to step in and stop this or what? Taking so many punches, and he had such a swelling on his forehead. But he's just a typical resilient Eastern European boxer. And for me, it's kind of like George Groves is a great example for even Cal Brook or anyone else who wants to reinvent themselves, because I think the legendary Cus D'Amato did once say that to see a man beaten not by a better opponent, but by himself is a travesty. And I think if George Groves had lost that fight against Chudinov, because we knew he was a better boxer than him, it would have been the end of his career. So, really pleased with his performance. He took a cut to the eye early, and people were worrying ringside, but he does remind me a bit of Nate Diaz from UFC in the sense that he will always cut and bleed a bit easily. But he came back, and that combination he threw was for the boxing purists, it was borderline beautiful. So, you know, really pleased, and let's see. Hopefully he can have a couple of defences. James DeGale can find out what he's doing next, and we can keep Chris Eubank Jr. tweeting about it, because he's not going to get anywhere near.
you know, Chris Eubank Jr., his tweets come exactly after the fight. Like, is it 30 seconds, 2 minutes?
Cal Brook, right? He's not really getting himself in the mix, and he doesn't make himself warm to anybody, which is key, really, of getting these deals over the line nowadays.
Benji, what about you? DeGale versus Groves rematch. Is that a Wembley Stadium filler?
Well, I don't know about Wembley Stadium, but it's a very big fight. It's a very big fight. I almost, to be honest, I almost think that you can throw the first fight out the window with it, because they've both moved on with their careers. So
different fighters. Yep.
Yeah, and with Groves in particular, he's got a different trainer now. He's been through the whole gut neck thing, and while I agree that that was a big sort of confidence lift and maybe exercising demons at the weekend, to have that on your mind as such a young man it's a big weight, you know. And we saw with Eubank Senior and Nigel Benn after both McClellan and Watson respectively, those guys weren't the same. They didn't quite have the same bite to them in a way after those incidents. So that does worry me with George Groves in the future. But I mean, the performance at the weekend was absolutely fantastic. I do want to see the fight happen again. I do want to see the rematch. I don't think it will be the chess match that was the first fight. I thought the first fight wasn't. It really didn't heat up that much, whereas I think a rematch would. And if it goes anything past 8 or 9 rounds, I would actually favour Groves, because old Chunky has a bit of a habit of slowing down towards the end and
stamina issues. Yep.
Yeah. But I'd like to see it. I think for British boxing, it's such a big fight. I think it should happen. Whether it will or not, though, who knows?
Well, we shall wait and see. Now it's interview time. Being at Wembley last weekend for the FA Cup final, I bumped into a few Arsenal Fan TV regulars for some post-game reaction. First up is that boy Troopz.
Oi, I'm with Troopz. Troopz, 2-1 Arsenal. It don't get no better, mate.
Fam, it don't get no better, blood.
Yeah,
don't get no better, fam. The performance as well, blood.
Immense.
Amazing performance, blood. Everyone stepped up to the plate, fam. Even Wenger, blood.
Even
I give props when it's due, you understand? I'm not a hater like that, blood. And he done bits today, fam. He picked the right lineup, blood. Because I would have put a spinner still. You know how I feel about Czech, blood. You know, fam. I don't rate their man there, but
Chelsea's equaliser was a bit dodgy, though.
Very dodgy, fam. And the only time they looked dangerous was when they went down to 10 men. That's the only time, blood, because there was no threat. There was nothing in the game, fam. Like we were just bossing in midfield, blood. A couple of slips here and there, but nothing like to worry you. You understand?
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. Beginning of the week, I wanted Arsenal to lose. I'm not gonna lie to you, because I wanted Wenger out. However, I woke up today and I'm like, nah, it's my team, man. We need to do this. Like, Arsenal were immense. We have to give them props.
Fully, blood. 10 out of 10 performance today, fam. 10 out of 10, every man, blood. Aaron Hamrow Ramsey, blood. Blood fire. That header was a bullet in the dot. I was right behind the goal, blood. And when I went in, fam, blood, I nearly lost limbs, fam.
But you know what?
My ankle was stuck in the seat, blood. Man had to pull me out. I thought I'd break my ankle, fam. I said, rotted. It was mad, fam. Even big out the fans as well, blood. Because like Mo said on Arsenal Fan TV, it was like a home game, fam. We took over, blood. Took over the thing.
And one thing we showed today was tremendous spirit. The guys are up for the fight, and we bullied Chelsea. I think we could have scored about 5 goals. I'm being real.
Fam, it should have been 3-0 first half, blood. Should have been 3-0 first half, fam. The passion that the team showed today, fam, pisses me off slightly, because why can't we do this week in, week out? You understand?
It's a motivational problem.
Yeah, blood. Why are you... they need to just... I think they need like a motivational speaker, you understand, to motivate them before the games, blood. Because when we perform, and when we step up, we could beat any team, fam. Any team in the world, blood. That's in Europe, fam, you understand? We've seen when we've done it, blood. We beat the greatest Barca team. Obviously, we beat them. It was a 2-legged game, but we beat them beat Bayern 2-0. Beat Bayern away 2-0. Like, we're that team when we put our heads down and won it. You're in trouble, blood. And they just got to show that next season, fam. Bit of consistency. Obviously, Wenger's going to stay. So he's got to go out and sign. He's got to go out and spend big.
Is he really going to spend big, though? Let's be real.
He has no choice, fam. It's got to that point where the man has no choice, blood. He has to spend big, fam. If he doesn't spend big, then we're going to be even further behind next year, fam.
But first things, we need to sort out Ozil and we need to sort out Sanchez. Like, our two best players are like, they're available for a free next summer. That's disgraceful.
I believe that they will sign still. I believe today, like, especially the way they were with the fans after the game, you could tell that there's a bond between the fans and the players, you understand? You could tell that the players, like, even Bellerin come out today and he said that he's been getting criticised by the fans and whatnot, and it's rightly so. He should take it and just man up, basically.
Yeah, he should man up.
So,
man up.
Yeah, so to all the players, blood, keep watching Arsenal Fan TV, fam. Because when you play good, we praise you. But if you play dead, I'm not going to come in here and lie and big you up for no reason, blood. You understand? So my message to the players, the board, the manager is go deal with the business correctly, blood. Deal with the business how we're supposed to deal with it. We're Arsenal Football Club. The Arsenal. Yeah? It's not other team with the before their name of the club, yeah? the Arsenal, yeah?
And that cannon should mean something.
Yeah, that cannon should mean something, fam. Man come in with the cannon and lick down man with the cannon, you understand? Hopefully next season we just start licking down man as well, blood.
So it's like moving forward, what do we need for next season, player-wise?
I think we need another man in the midfield. I think we need another centre-back. Maybe a left-back.
Aubameyang. He wants to leave Dortmund.
He's probably going to Madrid though, man. You know what, Jens? I like Sanchez down the middle, innit? Or Welbeck. So if I was going for like a star, I'd go for Mbappe.
Okay.
I'd go for Mbappe, because then you could put Alexis on the left, Mbappe on the right, Welbs down the middle, Ozil behind. That's pure fire, fam. Yeah. That's danger. And on the break, that is pure pace. Yeah. You understand? We could actually afford to just sit back and just say to teams, come on to us. Yeah. And then just long ball over. Veem, you're in.
And that new formation suits us. 3-4-3 suits us nicely.
It proper suits us, blood. And it's just a shame that it took him so long to change up the thing, fam. If he changed it earlier in the season, we never know what could have happened, fam. Anything could have happened, blood. So he just has to deal with business how he used to deal with business. Bring back the old Wenger. The Wenger that I used to love. I respect the man, but I don't love the man no more, innit? So bring back that Wenger that I love, innit? The one that's got that ruthless streak, you understand? The one that stood at Old Trafford and he was put his hand down and he's like, what? I want that Wenger back, fam, not this hammer on.
But tonight, it's about celebrating and we're going to pop champagne.
We're going to pop bottles, fam. Bottles on Robbie blood, you get me? Bottles on Robbie blood.
Lovely,
trust me, fam. Lovely as Frankie would say. Oi, oi!
Thanks for your time, bro.
Come on, man.
Wicked.
I got nothing but time for you, man. You know, you man are family.
Cheers, bro.
Come on, man.
Cracking stuff. Now let's hear from the one and only Nigerian tactician, Kelechi.
Pep Talk UK, and I'm joined with an Arsenal Fan TV regular, Kelechi. 2-1 Arsenal.
Yes, of course, I predicted the scoreline. I'm very happy. I knew that that's what they were going to do. We prayed on this pitch on Thursday, and the boys delivered. The 3-4-3 formation I gave is still working.
Okay.
And so we're very happy. Sometimes it's not about shouting Wenger in, Wenger out, and all that. Just focus on the team and help the team the way you can. Yeah. And I've been proven correct now. You guys should give me a statue in Emirates.
Kelechi for manager. Kelechi, who do you think was the man of the match in the game?
To be honest, I don't know. All of them. Mm-hmm. All of them.
Mertesacker was immense.
But I mean, I don't know. Bellerin, man. He was too immense, man. They all did well, man. I don't know. Can't pick out anybody.
You think they were playing for the manager?
Of course. That's what it looked like. That's what
so it's inked to new 2-year deal for Wenger?
Well, that's why, I mean, it has always been on the table. So, that's why I don't join the Wenger out nonsense, because they really do the results.
You have to get behind the team, innit? In the final, especially. But, like, where do we go for next season? What are we going to do next?
Sign 1 or 2 players, you'll be okay.
Okay.
And then maintain your formation, your tactical formation. Sometimes you play 4-2-3-1, sometimes 4-3-3, sometimes 3-4-3. That tactical tweak, and you'll be fine.
Nice, Kelechi. Thank you. Cheers, mate.
Thank you, Kelechi Capello. Finally, let's hear from another delighted gooner, the man with no filter, Mr. DT.
It's Pep Talk UK, Frankie B, and I'm joined with Mr. DT. How you doing, bro?
I'm buzzing.
Mate, 2-1 Arsenal, mate. We're victorious. Yeah. How did you see the game? The boys turned up.
Massively turned up. I think for 90 minutes we battered Chelsea. That's not an exaggeration. We battered them. If they would have lost that game 4-5-1, they would have had to take that on the chin and say, you know what? We got battered. The scoreline flattered them, I think, and we made it closer than it should have been. Do you know what I mean? So, but I'm buzzing, man. It's been a long season. You know what I mean? It's like, that's what today's my 55th game this season.
Wow.
Every single game. And you kind of like have highs and real big lows, and then all of a sudden it's like bang, you get the ultimate high, which is winning a trophy. And that's what it's about. That's why you support clubs. That's why you do what you do. I've been coming 31 years now, and I've seen us win some trophies, but it never gets boring.
So is this a turning point for next season, winning the FA Cup? We've been there before, haven't we?
Do you know what? I don't know. I think the board need to come out this week and tell us what's actually going on. I think the way they've handled things has been a disgrace. Whether Wenger's staying or going, tell us.
We know he's staying. We all know he's staying, innit?
Do you know what? I still don't know. I watched his reaction afterwards, and it was the sign of a man that's kind of... I watched him in previous FA Cup, parade things like at the end, and he's involved in everything and celebrating. I looked at him last week when the last game of the season against Everton, and he never came out. I looked at him today, and he stayed away from everything. And it's kind of, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it was the sign of someone he's saying goodbye. And he's like leaving the players to enjoy their moment because he doesn't want the spotlight on him. But I think we're going to find out one way or the other this week.
So do you think the banners have worked?
Do you know what? People have had Wenger out banners and people have had Wenger in banners. And it's, and today there was some of us side by side, and all we cared about was not whether we want Wenger out or in, it was about Arsenal. And that's above all what we should be worrying about. I want the manager out because I believe that we are underperforming, underachieving massively.
It's like it's gone stale, isn't it?
It's like if we were challenging for the title, then I could sit there and say, you know what, I know where we're going, I know what we're building. But we haven't, in the last 14 years, only 2 out of those 14 years have we finished under double figures behind the champions. And Wenger talks about 1 point behind the Champions League place this year. I look at it and go, well, no. We're 18 points behind the champions. Yeah, and I look at this today, the Chelsea team we played today, right? And over 38 games, they were the best and the most consistent. Fair play. But we proved twice this season that we're a match for them on our day. And this is what bugs me. Why can we not do that every week? Why is our mentality so frail and so fragile at crucial points of the season? And that's what gets us as fans. I've seen some awful performances this year. Losing 9 games in the Premier League.
3-0 Crystal Palace, that was terrible.
3-0 Crystal Palace. You're talking even 3-3 at Bournemouth after being 3-0 down. 3-1 at West Brom. These kind of games here are the difference between Europa League and qualifying for the Champions League easily. But we don't want that no more. I want that feeling of challenging and winning the Premier League title. As a fan today, how you feel watching us lift that trophy, that should inspire you to say, you know what, I want the Premier League, I want that, I want the Champions League. We're a huge club and we're the biggest club that's never won it. And that's killing me as a fan.
But the Chelsea fans are singing Champions of Europe, you'll never sing that.
Yeah, they can sing
and that kills me.
Listen, they can sing it as much as they want. And, there's some very bitter ones today. I've met some really nice Chelsea fans today. And I've got a few mates that are Chelsea fans. And fair play to those ones, right? Because they've sat there before the game and they said, good luck today, bruv. I understand why you're doing what you're doing. You love your club. I respect your views. And then you've got some that are walking up going, DT, you prick, you're going to lose 4-0, why are you even here? And I just sit there and I'm just like, wow, you're the ones that give your club a bad name. Because there are some decent ones. You know what I mean? So, but at the end of the day, and like some of them, I've had a couple of my mates message me going, bruv, far better team today, far superior, I've got to take this on the chin, throw anything you want at me. And even when I go on Twitter and I say, I'm buzzing, I'm so excited, Chelsea fans are all putting pictures of the Europa League up, and I'm like, do you really think that bothers me right now?
Thursday night football.
I don't care. I don't mind Thursday night football. I can watch EastEnders on a Wednesday now. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, listen, it is what it is. I'm not going to sit here and cry about it. I get to visit some different countries.
Azerbaijan,
Kazakhstan, and, do you know what I mean? But you know what? I was having a look the other day at the teams that are already qualified, and we're in like the top seeded group, so we're automatically in like the group parts, and you've got the likes of like AC Milan and stuff in there. So there's some still big ties. You know what I mean? No doubt we will get one of them like Astra Gogo or some crap like that, you know what I mean?
Young Boys FC.
Young Boys FC, And then we all know what it's like playing against these because we laugh at Tottenham playing against them every year. But, they can have their one season in the Champions League. They'll go and embarrass themselves again. Here.
At their home ground now, Wembley for next season.
This is our ground. This is our ground, not yours, Tottenham. Our last 8 visits here, 8 wins. 8 wins out of 8. How many times have Tottenham won it? Behave yourself, and they played Tottenham played Chelsea. Look what Chelsea done to them. We showed them, and today, if anything, I look at the fans beforehand, and there weren't a lot that were really confident. Let's be real. As soon as we lost Koscielny, and then Gabriel, and then Mustafi, a lot of us were going, every chance we did have has just gone down the drain. You're not talking 1. 3 of your main centre-backs, and we play 3 at the back.
And we still outplayed them.
And we outplayed them, we buoyed them off. And I'd said it to Robbie earlier, and I said we bullied them. That's what we did. What Chelsea have done to everyone throughout the Premier League this season, we did to them. And we've done it twice. Done it twice. So I'm happy, man. I'm happy.
So, like, just to conclude, next season, what do we need to push for the title?
First things first, let's clarify what's going on with Wenger. Let's clarify whether Kroenke's going to accept Usmanov's offer, whether he's going to come in with a second one. Let's get this dealt with next week, straight away. Yeah, if Wenger's staying, I take it on the chin, and we go again next season. And if things ain't going right, then it kind of justifies why we do what we do. You know? And I've said all along, if we win the Champions League, which we won't next year anyway, but if we win the Premier League, I hold my hands up and I say, I'm sorry, Arsene, I got it wrong. And I'll burn the banner. And I've said that 100 times. But I haven't seen anything this season that's made me say any different. So, like I said, let's clarify what's going on within the club over the next week. Let's get that done. Then the players can go on holiday. Let's sort out Alexis's situation, Ozil's situation. Aaron Ramsey's got a year left on his contract. Santi Cazorla's got a year left. There's a lot of players with a year left on their contract.
The only bad thing is...
Chamberlain.
There's about 8 players.
Exactly. So we've got a lot to do behind the scenes before we even get in our minds. Let's go again. I want to enjoy this weekend, though. I want to celebrate. I want to enjoy it. I want to get pissed.
Bit of shisha.
No. I'm just going to get pissed, man. That's it. You know what I mean? And then we go again. And then I'm going out to Australia and China for the pre-season tour. And we might have a bit of clarity where we are by then. And then we come back and it's the Emirates Cup. And then Community Shield. I think we've got Chelsea again, haven't we?
We're back
again. So
we're back to murk them again.
Exactly. So let's try and make it 9 wins out of 9. And then we'll be coming back here to play Spurs in the league. So
yeah.
There you go, man. You know what? I'm looking forward to next season, but we got other priorities right now. Let's just deal with everything behind closed doors, and then we move on.
DT, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you.
Big up.
No worries, man.
Cracking into the season, Arsenal FA Cup winners 2017. Roller next season. We're coming for the Premiership. MJ.
Yo, MJ in the building.
Now it's football time. So we heard from some happy gooners, Troopz, Kelechi and Mr. DT. Last weekend where Arsenal won the FA Cup against Chelsea. Since then we've had some breaking news, and the news is a new 2-year deal for the manager, Arsene Wenger. Now Pascal, you got your wish, as you said on Arsenal Fan TV. 2 more years, brother.
Well, you know, it's not my ultimate preference, but you know, it's for the good of the club, you know, because Arsenal have clearly not made any plans to replace Wenger anytime soon. So I think for us, it's important that we give ourselves enough time to select, to shortlist the right manager that's going to be taking the club forward. And I think that 2 years is the right time for the club and for the board to make a decision as to who should be coming in London, you know, to manage the Arsenal Football Club. You know, Wenger has only been out of the Champions League for the first time in 21 years, so we can forgive him for that. You know, a lot of clubs, like Liverpool, for instance, have been trying.
Here we go.
Spurs. I mean, look, they cannot say the same thing. Yes, they've won it before, but let's be honest, they were very lucky to win that in Istanbul. They've never been able to do it again. And
you know what, MJ back in the building. I'm sorry, I have to interject. I never do this, but basically, from a Liverpool point of view, I totally agree with everything you've said so far, Pascal. But all I need to say is, Arsene Wenger, we want you to stay, because every other football fan is singing that song. And you know what? Even though Wenger actually has a 2-year deal, I guarantee you, every single ground he goes to, they will absolutely want him to stay more and more and more. Now, I'm sure, I actually saw you boys, we're friends of another channel, the Arsenal Fan TV. I saw you boys on there. So I actually saw Frankie B actually saying he was still very much Wenger out. Frankie B, how do you feel about Arsene Wenger getting this 2-year contract?
I am absolutely disappointed. It just seems that the club have made a lazy decision. Arsene Wenger's been on a decline for a little while. His approach to coaching is totally outdated. And I just feel he can't offer us anything new going forward. Okay, we've got a new formation, but that's about it. You know, we've already we've already been linked to a £6 million Nigerian striker. I mean, come on. I mean, Aubameyang goes to PSG and we sign a Nigerian striker for £6 million.
I mean, never mind that. It's more like United are looking like they're on the verge of signing Griezmann.
Griezmann, yeah, that's a problem.
We all know Lacazette is still available. It seems that Arsene Wenger hasn't changed his stripes. He just can't change.
I'm disappointed by this new 2-year deal, but it was common knowledge anyway. Do you know what I mean? So I've got time to get used to the fact that he's staying. But Baz, I mean, what do you think, Baz, of Arsene Wenger staying? Does it mean more Champions League football for Liverpool?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm a little bit surprised. I'm a die-hard Liverpool fan, you know. I've been going home and away for best part of 12, 13 years now. And I didn't watch I didn't watch much of the final, given I was at Bramall Lane this weekend for the fight. But I did catch some of the second half and the goal, and I've had a little bit look at the highlights. But for me, the whole Wenger thing is a little bit of a mystery, because I'm a little bit with Pascal. The simple question really is, who are you going to get to replace him if he leaves? Because
I can answer that question. Thomas Tuchel,
Simeone has become available last night, hasn't he? So it's kind of retrospective.
I know, which is perfect.
Yeah, but the point, Baz, is Wenger. What is he? Almost on $9 million a season. You can get a lot of managers for that. A lot of managers.
Everyone knew Thomas Tuchel was going to leave. He's had issues at Dortmund. It was common knowledge he was going to go. It wasn't a shock. So it just seemed like a good kind of situation. You got yourself a top manager,
Yeah, I hear you. In the last 10 years, the competition as a Liverpool fan as well has grew immensely. When would we as Liverpool fans ever be satisfied that a player would rather go and pledge his allegiance to the stripes of Spurs? Recently, we lost out to Willian, who was going to Spurs, then went to Chelsea. Eriksen, who was affiliated with us for many a season, then went to Spurs. Dele Alli, we couldn't bother to spend the money on, going to Spurs. And now Ryan Sessegnon, who looks like a very promising fullback, potentially going to Spurs.
I mean, we also have to talk about geographical location, because a lot of international players would rather live in a more cosmopolitan city as London. It has nothing to do with the football club. The fact that we actually went in for Dominic Solanke, who was actually being tried by Arsenal as well as a lot of other teams. RB over in Germany as well, Red Bull, who actually finished second in the German league. I mean, this is clearly a very talented young player who Chelsea tried to offer him God knows how much. Apparently he rejected 40 million from Chelsea to 40k a week from Chelsea to sign for Liverpool for 20k a week. I mean,
really?
There's tweets going back as far as 2012. When Suarez was playing for Liverpool, of Solanke actually going, oh my God, Anfield's amazing. Liverpool's attacking is incredible, you know. So right from 2012, he kind of expressed his interest in the club. Chelsea have tried to keep him. This is actually a very promising young player who is represented England at every level, even though he's of Nigerian origin. So someone who's well on my radar. He was England Player of the Year 2 years ago when he was 17. Invited to come and train with the England first team, then by Roy Hodgson. So we're talking about quite a good player. And we've also signed some other pretty good players as well. I mean, I totally get what you're saying.
I think you're after Clichy now. You're after Clichy, apparently.
I mean, allegedly.
Yeah, we've dropped our interest in Clichy. I think that was more of a Daily Mirror sort of leading article. But coming back to Wenger, what I was saying was, it's not guaranteed that the new manager's going to adapt. You look at Pep and Jose. No one thought they were poor managers. I mean, Jose's obviously very, very well familiar with the Premier League, and he's got himself a job at a huge club. So I don't know if I'd be too sure that taking the stance to remove Wenger would then give you any sort of quick return to the Champions League anyway. So if the point is Wenger staying going to help Liverpool secure Champions League football, if I take my huge affectionate Liverpool hat off for a second and look into the perspective of an Arsenal fan, I'm not too sure there is a better option out there. And that might sound a little bit controversial, but I genuinely don't.
Well, there's nothing we can do, Pascal. We're stuck with Arsene Wenger. I just think next time, let's just offer him a 10-year deal and, and it's done.
I mean, look, Frankie B, we've got to take into consideration his age and also his health, Football at that level is very demanding, mentally very stressful, and I think Wenger has had a very difficult season because for the very first time, fans have shown a bit of dissension against him, and And for once, he was
planes fly over stadiums.
Yes, you know, and that's never happened, you know, and he probably felt a bit, a bit insulted because of what he has achieved for the club. But he also shows that, you know, fans nowadays are not necessarily too forgiving. You know, Arsenal Football Club is a very big club. It's a very wealthy club, and the fans know that they should be performing at a much higher level. And Arsene Wenger, unfortunately, has not satisfied the, you know, expectations of the fan base.
Well, speaking of a competition that Arsenal won't be in next season, let's talk about the Champions League final this weekend in Cardiff. Now, Baz, historically, we've got two of the biggest teams going head-to-head. How do you see this one? Prediction?
To be honest, the romantic in me wants really badly for Buffon to lift that trophy as his final farewell. But I can't see Real Madrid not winning that title on a one-night sort of shootout. I mean, over 2 legs, we've seen Juve show absolute tactical nails, taking advantage of the home advantage, battering Barcelona really, nullifying and negating them. Chiellini fighting like the old school throwback centre half, celebrating a clearance off the line as if he just scored a Maradona.
With Bonucci.
Sorry?
With Bonucci as well,
yeah,
beside
with
him.
Bonucci, with Buffon. You know, great spine. I mean, Khedira as well, he'll have a point to prove against Real if he plays. But I'm going to make a prediction that this final is going to be won in the middle of the park between a sort of unsung hero in Miralem Pjanic. And if him and Khedira, if they do play together, versus Modric, I think if they can boss that midfield and sort of negate any outlet and service going to the attacking threat of the elite level players Real Madrid possess, they might stand a chance. But my prediction is Real to win it 2-0.
Real 2-0. Pascal, what about you?
Well, you know, Frankie B, I'm a big fan of Dybala, you know, and I believe it's the reason why the Pogba was sold to Manchester United, because he was such a prolific midfielder. But, you know, Juventus have got a knack of not being able to finish the job, you know, and Zinedine Zidane has done a remarkable job at Real Madrid. And as a fellow Frenchman, I have to support Zinedine Zidane, who I would love for him to coach the French league one day. And so for me, it's going to be Real Madrid, who will be beating the old lady. And I mean, you know, Juventus has got a very good record, but I can see 3-0. I can see 3-0 to
Real Madrid.
Yes, of course. I can see 2 goals from CR7, Ronaldo, and perhaps Benzema coming off the bench to score a header or something like that, you know.
Like Manu Petit's dream in the Euros, this. Not Euros, France 98.
Of course, yeah.
I got a funny feeling that Juventus might take this on penalties, you know. You know, they're really good at the back and they've got a good rear guard action. I have a feeling they might hold Real Madrid for the whole 90 and extra time, and they might sneak it on penalties.
Not just.
And Ronaldo might actually miss a penalty in the Champions League final again.
Cristiano Ronaldo, his life ambition is to be the best player in the world ever. So yeah, he's already managed to prove he's the best player in the world. He is on the verge of leveling with Lionel Messi in terms of 5 World Players of the Year. I mean, I wanted to call it the Ballon d'Or then, but this last year it got rebranded to the best male footballer of the year. So they keep on changing it every year, whatever you want to call it. Ronaldo's chance, his opportunity. You look at that Real Madrid midfield with Kroos, Modric and Isco. That seems pretty useful. I mean, don't get me wrong, Juventus are very, very strong as well, but I just see Ronaldo scoring. I see him scoring more than once on such a big game. And I see Real Madrid winning 2-1.
2-1.
Close game, but Real Madrid will edge it. Because Zidane, the way Real Madrid play, they don't need to play well to win. This is what I've been saying all along. This is the reason why I thought they were going to win it. Because they've actually been outplayed for long periods in games, like against Bayern Munich, before a red card or something like that. They don't need to play well to win. And that's the reason why Real Madrid will not play well like they've done all season in La Liga. They haven't actually played well. A lot of people have actually said Zidane has jammied it, but it's just impossible. You can't play as well. I think this year, this Real Madrid side set the most amount of games going without defeat ever in La Liga in terms of a Spanish team in terms of consecutive games. So, yeah, you just see this team. It doesn't look special, but it's absolutely special. Sprinkles of stardust. You've got people like Kroos and Modric who go about passing the ball and dictating the play. You don't really see it, but they're absolutely artists. And you've got Isco kind of pulling up in those kind of half positions. In addition to that, you've got Cristiano Ronaldo, who is no longer a winger, who is actually a striker. CR7, but is more of a number 9. So when you look at everything with the attacking Marcelo, I mean, he's an unsung hero. He will keep on bombing forward, decent at the back. Sergio Ramos, we know he's going to score a goal. Is he going to get a red card? That's what you worry about him. But no, it's definitely a quality Real Madrid side. And I think they're probably just going to take this 2-1.
Well, we're looking forward to this one. It should be a cracker. The biggest game in club football. The champions! Brilliant, guys. Thank you. Join us again next week for another Pep Talk UK podcast. Thank you.